In view of the growing number of new COVID-19 cases in Ukraine, the government has made a decision to impose temporary restrictions on the entry of foreigners and stateless persons to Ukraine. At the same time, exceptions have been made for the broadest possible list of traveler categories in order to mitigate the impact on people-to-people and business contacts. The entry restrictions do not apply to the following categories of persons. Persons who are spouses or children of Ukrainian citizens, those entering Ukraine in transit and having proof of departure within 2 days after entry, those arriving in Ukraine to study, those serving in the armed forces, those having a temporary or permanent residency permit for Ukraine, those with a refugee or person in need of complementary protection status, those with an official valid work permit for Ukraine, staff members of foreign diplomatic or consular missions, heads or members of foreign official delegations, staff members of international organizations, those arriving in Ukraine at the invitation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, drivers and or crew members of freight vehicles, buses on regular international routes, military instructions of the armed forces of NATO and NATO Partnership for Peace Program member states, cultural figures arriving at the invitation of cultural institution, athletes arriving in Ukraine to complete an official sporting event, technical specialists arriving in Ukraine at the invitation of Ukrainian enterprises, those transporting hematopoietic stem cells for transplantation, those arriving for treatment at the healthcare facilities of Ukraine. These categories are required to have proof of insurance covering possible costs of COVID-19 treatment and observation issued by an insurance company with an office in Ukraine.